Today we are learning how to perform function operations. And honestly, this is going to feel like just a slightly different way to write something that we already know how to do. So they're saying f of x is x squared. I'm going to use green. F of x is x squared minus 5x plus 8. G of x is x squared minus 4. They want you to find f of x plus g of x. That means they want you to take x squared minus 5x plus 8 and add x squared minus 4. They want you to take the f function, the green one, and the g function, the blue one, and add them together. Well, if we're adding, we're just combining like terms. So we got x squared and x squared, that's 2x squared. Negative 5x. And then 8 and negative 4 would give us 4. Ta-da! Number 2, they're changing these a little bit. This time, f of x is x to the 1/3. G of x is 3x to the 1/3. And they want us to add. So we have x to the 1/3 plus 3x to the 1/3. When you're adding, your variables have to have the exact same exponent. So is x to the 1/3 the same as x to the 1/3? Yeah, we've got one of them here plus 3 more of them. That means we have 4x to the 1/3. When you're adding, you don't change the exponents, you just combine like terms. Okay, so I feel like adding with functions is pretty easy. Subtracting with functions, I want you to be careful of. Notice with adding, I didn't put any parentheses up there. Technically, I should have put parentheses around the green one and parentheses around the blue one. Now with adding, those parentheses don't really matter, but with subtraction, they do. So in number 3, our f function is this trinomial and our g function is this binomial. We are doing 3x squared plus 4x minus 6 minus the entire function 2x minus 6. You have to subtract all of the g function. That means we need to subtract the 2x. We also need to subtract the negative 6. So we need to distribute this negative, and what we're really doing is minus 2x and plus 6, because we have to subtract the negative 6. So I like to just write this underneath and then kind of cross this off so I know that I've already dealt with that negative. Then this is like combining like terms. We've got 3x squared. We've got 4x and negative 2x. That would be 2x. And we've got negative 6 plus 6. What is negative 6 plus 6? 0. So when you're subtracting, don't forget to distribute the negative to the entire second function. For multiplying functions, let's skip to number 5. Our f function is 2x plus 3. Our g function is x minus 4. They want us to take the f function times the g function. We need to distribute, double distribute, FOIL, whatever it is you call this. So we've got 2x times x. That will give us 2x squared. 2x times negative 4 is negative 8x. 3 times x is 3x. And 3 times -4 is -12. Then combine your like terms. Number 6, our f function is 3x to the 2/3, and our g function is -5x to the 1/3. So 3, this is really 3 times x to the 2/3, and -5x to the 1/3. With multiplication, you are multiplying your numbers together. 3 times -5 gives us -15. And then you are multiplying your x's together. When we're multiplying, what do we do with the exponents? We add them. So 2/3 plus 1/3, that's 3/3, which is 1 whole. I'm going to write it like this just so you can see it, but that ends up being just -15x because 3/3 is the same as 1. Before we go on to the next page, I want to talk for a moment about the domain of these functions, because we are really creating new functions by adding, subtracting, or multiplying these functions together. And part of your assignment is going to ask you about the domain of the new function. The domain is usually all real numbers. If I look at something like number 3, 3x squared plus 2x, I can plug any x value in there. So everything is fine. There's no numbers that can't be used until we get to division. So on the next page, we're going to look at dividing functions. And this is where the domain has to be considered. Dividing functions is actually super easy because there's not a lot of simplification that you can do. Our f function is 3x minus 6. Our g function is 2x. They want us to do the f function divided by the g function. That's it. That's all. We're done. But then they're going to ask about the domain of this function. What's the number one rule in math when it comes to fractions? Or dividing? What can you not divide by? You can't divide by 0. So our x values cannot equal whatever would make the bottom equal 0. So 2 times what would give us 0? 0. So x can't equal 0. As long as x isn't 0, everything else is fine. But if x is 0, then we've got something divided by 0, and that's bad. The top can be 0, the bottom can't be 0. So that would be the domain of this new function. We're going to add a number 9 over here, by the way. Number 8. This kind you can simplify a little bit. What I want you to notice here is that the f function has parentheses in it, and the g function doesn't. And I don't think I gave you many of these in your assignment. But 3x in parentheses raised to the 1/3 is 3 to the 1/3 x to the 1/3. So they want us to do 3 to the 1/3 x to the 1/3 divided by 4 x to the 1/4. This part can be simplified. Because it's all multiplication and division, we can simplify that. We would subtract those fractions. So in my calculator, if I do 1/3 minus 1/4, I get 1/12. So this answer ends up being 3 to the 1/3 x to the 1/12 over 4, and there's no x on the bottom anymore. And that just looks like, I don't know why they put parentheses there. That was dumb. Here's the type that you're going to see more often. In number 9, f of x is 5x plus 3, and g of x is 2x minus 1. Do f of x divided by g of x. So 5x plus 3 divided by 2x minus 1. That's it, that's all. There's no simplification needed. But now we have to think about the domain. What would make the denominator equal 0? Off to the side, you might have to do 2x minus 1 equals 0 and see what would make that bottom equal 0. Add 1 to both sides and then divide by 2. If x is 1/2, the denominator is going to equal 0. That means our domain is x can't equal 1/2. So sometimes you need to take this bottom part and go off to the side and figure out what's going to make that bottom part equal 0. That is what our x's can't be. Your assignment is 5.5, Day 1 worksheet. It is in Schoology on the next page. 5.5, Day 1 worksheet, and I think you do have to click a link to view the worksheet, so click that link. It'll pop open a different window with your worksheet. You do not need to print this. You can if you're able, but you don't need to. Just show your work on your own piece of paper. Is there anything weird on here? I don't think so. All right, you should be good to go.